All right. Hello, inventors and entrepreneurs. My name is Courtney Laschkewitsch. I am the managing director here at Inventors Groups of America, and welcome to Inventors Online. Thank you everyone for joining us today for our March Inventors Online. Flash your hands in front of the screen right now if you are new to Inventors Online. Awesome. Okay, we've got a couple people here. Welcome everyone. Wonderful. All right, so for those who are new here, IGA was founded in 2017 by Stephen Key and Andrew Krause to teach individuals how to best commercialize their product ideas, as well as strengthen and support inventor groups throughout the nation. We have a directory of local and regional inventors groups on our website, whom we meet with every month, and if you are located near one, we highly encourage you to join. Something new here, if you don't have one near you, and you would like to start a inventors group, send me an email, and we do have a meeting set up mid-April to discuss with prospective inventor leaders who may want to start a group. So go ahead, and if that's you, if you're interested in wanting to start a group in your area and there's no group around you, go ahead and send me an email. We'd love for you right now to go ahead and go into the chat and type in your name and what state or country we are from. We love when we get to see that. So feel free and go ahead and do that right now. Of course, per usual, please do not disclose anything that is confidential and not already publicly available. And our meeting is being recorded and will be harnessed on our website and YouTube channel soon after. Go ahead, and if you guys have any questions throughout the presentation, definitely go ahead and please type in your questions early into that chat box. Now, pretty short intro here. Stephen and Andrew, is there anything you guys would like to say or mention before we go ahead and jump in?
Yeah, I want to know why you get so many people to your events. And Andrew and I, we don't get so many. Could you help me understand that, everybody? Could you please type that into the chat box so I can understand what we're doing wrong?
Well, you said earlier, Stephen, it's her energy is infectious.
It is, well, it is very contagious and it's inspiring. But I want to say, before you get started, Courtney, I want to say thank you for doing these, because I'm learning a lot myself, and I don't think we ever stop learning. And you're doing new things, and you're teaching us all to up our game, right? To be better at this. And so I do appreciate it, and that's why I'm here, listening and learning along with everybody else. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And I think about an hour before this presentation, I was kind of challenging Courtney. I'm like, I don't know if this whole thing is really practical from a licensing standpoint. And she completely turned me around on it. So I love that. So I think what she's going to share with you is really cool, particularly one aspect of it. I think it might benefit you.
You cannot fight the Courtney Factor. That's what I call it, everybody. It's the Courtney Factor. She brings it on, and I'm so happy she's bringing it on tonight. And we have a great group. Jeez, what a crowd.
I feel like I'm at a WW like F event. Courtney, bring it on.
Bring on, Courtney.
There we go. Yeah, Courtney does martial arts, by the way, so she probably could bring it on, Stephen. She probably kick both of our butts.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
All right.
What kind of martial arts do you do, Courtney?
I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, judo, Muay Thai, and then a little bit of MMA, but I get more into Jiu-Jitsu myself.
Cool. Cool. Don't mess with Courtney. Go ahead, Courtney. Take it away.
All right, let me share my screen here. Let me size this properly and we can go ahead and get started. Okay, so how to make your cell sheet pop with augmented reality. Let's paint a little picture here. That's you on the left, the woman with the light bulb, and there is the door to pitching, and on the right is the company. You've got an idea, and you are, we're talking about licensing here. You went ahead and created a sell sheet. You went through the steps, you walk through that door, you present your idea on your sell sheet. Often for a majority of mid-sized companies, those people who you would be pitching to, sales and marketing people, looking at inventions is a small part of their job. So with that said, they may view your sell sheet for 10 or 15 seconds. You would love it to be longer. You would hope it to be longer. You want your sell sheet to stand out. But this is often a small part. So they're doing all sorts of other things. They get an email from you like, oh, I guess I need to review this because it's part of my job. I look at it, spend 5-10 seconds, and oh, I'm not sure. Maybe I should bring it to my team if they have a team. And then they may, make that decision off the bat. Either way, it's 10 to 15 seconds they're looking at your sell sheet for. How do we elongate that? How do we make it a minute or 2 minutes or 3 or 4 minutes? All the way to the point where they're cheerleading your product through the entire company, saying, this is cool. Can we discuss this? So your goal is to create a cheerleader in them. But how do we do that? You've got a sell sheet, maybe you've got a video. How can we get to elongate those 10 to 15 seconds to longer, to 3 to 4 minutes? This is where we get into something that we're going to talk about immersion. Immersion is how you can get people to stay at your product. There are many forms of immersion, but we're going to discuss one important one for today. So the importance of a visual, for those of you who want to get into it right now, you know why you're here. You want to just say, I got this, Courtney, but can we immediately get to the nitty gritty? Go ahead and check out that QR code while we discuss this. If you're already ready to jump into it and see what we're talking about here. But for everyone else, let's just briefly talk about what do sell sheets, videos, and AR, being augmented reality, all have in common. So sell sheets, your marketing material for licensing, static text and visuals. Hopefully it's good text. Hopefully it's very clean visuals. You definitely want a sell sheet. It's to the point information. That's important. You do not want to replace a sell sheet. This is not a way to replace. The sell sheet is basically a vessel for your augmented reality. So you do need that sell sheet. Then you go a little bit better into 1-minute promo videos. Those are great. They're dynamic text and visuals compared to static for the sell sheet. It adds a wow factor. There's emotion into it. It's exciting. It can show how something is used. And that's great. But let's take it one step further and just talk about augmented reality. What I like to call an interactive, immersive visual simulation. So there are a couple different ways we can use AR. And 360 model, which we'll get into. It's perfect for seeing what the product could look like in real life. It puts the product in their hands, and it creates a similar excitement that a prototype does. So there's many different ways to use it, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Before we do that, I would love to pause here and have a raise of hands of those of you who are familiar with augmented reality, who are advanced at augmented reality and have no idea what AR is. For no one who, I've heard of it, but I basically don't know it at all. Raise your hand if you're just not really familiar with AR. Okay, raise your hand if you are, semi-familiar, that you've maybe tested it a little bit. Okay, and then anyone who is really advanced in augmented reality or virtual reality? Okay, I don't see one person. Okay. All right, let's get back into it. All right, so think of AR as an accessory to the sell sheet. You can see, if you guys have tried it there, that is a robot with shaders that we will talk about. There's 2 forms with the QR code there that you will see when you do it. One shows a 360 model and one is augmented reality. For what we're using, it's going to start with the AR, and then you can click that cube button on the bottom left on your phone to go ahead and view the 360 model. Okay, so real quickly, there's so much information here, and I could spend hours talking about just augmented reality, but to get a whole scope of it, for those of you who are not familiar what a sell sheet is, feel free to take a look at this, get familiar for those who are very new with licensing. Real quickly, your sell sheet on the left and right, 2 examples, 1-page advertisement, think of billboard for licensing. You are not selling when you are licensing. The sell sheet is doing the selling for you. A good example that I love to give is that you are the UPS delivery driver, and your goal is to deliver the package to the house or the company, and then you are running the heck the other direction. You are letting them view the sell sheet. You are not the one doing the sales. The sell sheet is doing the selling for you. It's basically your professional pitcher in a way, the sell sheet, not yourself. There's different layouts that you can use. Again, there's a lot here, so feel free to just take a look at that to get an idea of what sell sheets are for those of you who are not familiar. And then when and how to use them is incredibly important for augmented reality. So once you get into the steps for market research, prototype, marketing copy, and then you're going to do your sell sheet, and then you're going to go ahead and do the provisional patent, and then you'll end up pitching that. You use them for pitching. And then after you've asked who the right person is, you then send your sell sheet. And then we also only recommend sending it through email. So this is just a brief example of what sell sheets are without augmented reality or 360 models in it. So you get a feel for what we're actually placing it inside. Okay, now down to the nitty gritty here. Augmented reality and virtual reality. People get these confused a lot when they are not familiar with either. You think virtual reality, there's those goggles, the glasses that you can put on, which is different than augmented reality. So AR uses real world environment. You guys might have seen this on Amazon or Wayfair. A couple other companies are big on it as well. That is augmented reality, which we'll get into. Users can control their presence in the real world, and it can be accessed by a smartphone. So for our purposes, your licensees will be using it through a phone, not through the computer, which we will be using to create it through the computer. Definitely something to keep in mind that we'll talk about too once we get into making it and using Vectory. What's cool about this is just the very beginning, and for those of you who are familiar with AR and VR, we say this a lot when tech is new, it's the beginning, and that could be 10 years into this, 20 years into this. This is still a new technology, and there still are glitches. Virtual reality is not accessible by everyone. AR is. That's the beautiful thing about it. To access VR, it's digital content on a screen, basically. Like usually it's goggles, but it can be other things. But AR interacts with the real world. So feel free to take a look at this information as well. And let's just say that this is a massive industry because it's $4.6 billion in market size in 2019, let alone that number right over there, 85 billion in 2027. That's insane. That's a lot of money, y'all. Like 4.6 billion right now to 85. Can we just pause here and just think about that? That's a lot of money. So this is new. And you can see that's a projection for 2027. But more and more companies are using it, and you guys will be amazed at how it's used now and how we are going to use it as well. For those of you who are not familiar at all, I just wanted to throw those graphics up so you guys can get a quick look. Sometimes it takes a little bit to understand the difference between AR and VR when you are completely green to it. So feel free to take a look here to help you understand what's going on here. The bottom left GIF is an example of AR, often used for furniture. You can see you can move around the piece of furniture through your phone. The furniture is not actually there, it is digital. But VR, of course, is usually in relation to the most popular, which you guys may be familiar with, being Oculus, and that is an example of one of their Oculi headsets on the right. VR mainly can only be used for, again, a screen, full immersion. You're not seeing AR and VR, which is called XR, which is mixed reality. Whole nother discussion there. But just for those of you who are not familiar, that's a quick look into the difference between AR and VR. Okay, so where is AR used? You can see a list there on the left, and you can see all sorts of uses of it currently. Most recently, I found out that there's an app that can help you find your gate at an airport that uses arrows, which is using augmented reality. So there's arrows kind of similar to the robot that you see on the bottom left. That's a museum, and a robot's basically taking you through the museum and talking to you about the different pieces of art, and you follow it with your phone. Same thing with the airport and helping you find your gate. Another thing that's probably the most common used application for augmented reality is actually in medical, though you can see on the top right, that's another way to do it for medical, for educational purposes, but it's mainly used actually for practicing surgery. So it's just, there's so many different applications, and those are just the main ones that I've found in relation to AR there. So all this is really cool, but how does it relate to us? Like, what are we going to do with it? I personally had a liking to AR and VR. I used to teach technology classes where we taught the use of AR and VR to kids. And so I thought, how is there a way that we could somehow integrate this with licensing? Is it possible? And so I delve a little bit deeper. And so why AR, and how do we use it as inventors? Why you guys are here? First to market is still important. So you want something simple that doesn't take years to do. That's a big difference between AR and VR. VR is definitely not mass scale. It's not available to everyone. AR is. Again, we're trying to catch the attention and stand out from other submissions to have Hasbro and big companies like them take you maybe or your product a little bit more seriously. It is professional. You want to show a professional front. Augmented reality can help you do that. For those of you who are interested in understanding this deeply and are like, yeah, I kind of like this, I might want to use this for my sell sheet. You do need to understand, and this stuff is a little bit dry, so you guys can just take a look at it here. What is web AR? This is what we will be using. This is what is common now for what our purposes, and it's still new, but it has been a game changer in the industry. You guys can take a look at kind of briefly what that means right there. You had to use specific software or app to view AR. Now you do not, because it is web-based. It's on the cloud. So, you know, you can click on a URL or the QR code. Anyone can access it. There are a couple reasons why you may not be able to if you have an old phone or QR is disabled on your phone. But besides that, it should be accessible to everyone. I'm going to show you guys now a couple of videos to get you guys pumped of how cool this technology is. I'm already excited and
Hey,
just
Courtney, I've got a quick question. Real quick. AR has been around for a while, but it was very expensive. You didn't see it a lot of places. But today it seems like it's exploding. Why is the difference? Is it the technology on our phones that makes it easier? But why is it easier today than it was a couple of years ago?
Yeah, so the application of being able to now use web AR being incredibly new was not a thing. It was not possible. It's not the technology that has changed, though that is helping make AR maybe more accessible, I suppose. But more so, it's actually in relation to that you would have to download an app, and people don't want to download an app to view something if they're at a museum. I don't want to download this thing and then get rid of it. They just assume that the experience is not worth doing based on having to download something. But now with the new innovation of using web AR, it deletes that barrier in a way to put it. So there are no barriers. If you want to experience immersion, you can. You just need a phone.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen for you guys, and you can take a look at how the industry is using it currently. So here is a phone, tap to place item, swipe up. This is definitely high class here. This is a little more advanced than what we will be able to do right now with our program that we'll be using in Vectory. But this is you can't see it, but your hand is actually moving it back and forth. And you can press those different dots and things can pop up. You can use this. This is not theoretical. This is Samsung's watches that you can see in real life and look at, and they're using it for marketing purposes. And then another way to use it. This is specifically talking about web AR, what we were just talking about, and how accessible, it is now. This is animated. You can move around it, get close up to it for the details.
So, Courtney, can I ask another question?
Sure.
So are you telling us, maybe I'm skipping ahead here, but this is really looking interesting. So you're telling me that when a company gets 4,000 submissions and they kind of all look the same, but when they go to yours and you've done this new technology where they can actually see it, they're actually kind of involved, they can turn it around. Is that grabbing more of their attention and saying, hey, take a look at this. This is different. I stand out. I'm on the top of the stack. Is that what you're saying here with this? And it gives them a better idea of what they're going to possibly get from that prototype?
Absolutely. So when you have it in the cell sheet and they see that QR code, we're talking about immersion. So it's going to elongate the time of them viewing your product to however long it is to use that QR code. And so if they may think, oh, like this is cool, but I don't know, do they have a prototype? Like, I don't know, is there CAD drawings? Like, what's the next step? I don't know. We got to contact the inventor. Let's hope they're sane. They have that already with the QR code. They can move it around 360-degree model. So you're, again, getting rid of those barriers and they have more information right up front instead of going back and forth. And they may just say, forget it. It's not worth it.
Okay. So let's say I don't have a prototype yet, but I'm pretty close. But let's say I even have a prototype. I don't want to send it because it could break, but I can actually show them what this prototype would look and they can turn it around. Fantastic. So it makes it very easy for them to see it and you can control the pitch. All right, beautiful.
Exactly. And I did do that. I actually had a company who was interested in a concept and they said, could you send over a prototype? And I just had a virtual prototype. I quickly had my designer make an FBX file. I created the QR code and said, you know, I would welcome the opportunity for a prototype depending on how much interest there is. But for now, this was actually a game. And I presented the QR code and let me just tell you, the conversation that I had after that was not something that I expected for them to actually come back and say, this is really cool. And they've had employees going around scanning this thing and placing it in different locations. I didn't, I mean, this is one feedback, but I did not expect that to happen. So again, elongating that time.
All right, good for
you.
you.
And I'll do one, and you're probably going to address this, Courtney. But when the plane was flying out of the screen and then it dropped the Rubik's Cube or whatever that was an animation. But it's probably what you're doing is simpler, where it's a product and you can spin it and look at it. And that is more accessible and easy to implement. Is that
exactly
correct?
Yeah, so I'll be getting into that. My guess is the evolution of licensing and pitching will end up going into animation and then rigged models, which I'll briefly touch on at the end, but that is too far advanced for the software that we're using, that this is kind of showcasing what you could do with it in the future, depending on the industry or where you are with your product.
Got it. Thank you. Awesome.
All right, so so now you guys get a little feel of how it's used, like with that airplane and with the watches, but how could we potentially use it for our industry? This is a catalog that companies are now using, where that's the front, this is in Polish, and you open it up and different things pop up for advertising and marketing, where you're seeing it through your phone. And it's interacting with you. More and more companies are doing this to, again, get buyers, as in, large order quantities from different, this is not like for us, this is for, trying to sell it to very large, like there, see, that's a good example. You can see like the packaging right there. And then one more thing here. This is a manufacturing facility that they are, pitching, for a lack of a better term. And this is animated. So this is a way for a product to be made. This is another way that it's being used in the industry, where again, it's on your phone, you're seeing it through, there's the magazine and that pops up. You can walk around it and then you can see it. This one is also animated, so how the process actually works. All right, let's go back here. Okay. So the only other thing that you guys will need to know, and I will say this is incredibly easy to do. It may seem like a lot right now, because this whole entire hour presentation is all you will need to know in relation to augmented reality to use it for your product. It is that streamlined now, which I was in quite disbelief until I figured out the way to do it and was like, really? No, it can't be that simple. Like, there's got to be a lot of glitches, and there isn't. That's why I'm taking this day by day to see if this is gonna stay like this, because so far I've used it with many of my students over at Inventors. I've used it for my products, for pitching, for the prototype, and so far it's pretty outstanding what we can do with it. So this is the last detail that you guys will need to know about AR, which is marker versus markerless. Marker, also to your answer, Stephen, about web AR and being able to use it more. It was only marker or markered, where there'd be a card. For those of you who have had a 3DS from Nintendo, when they first came out, they included AR cards. That is this thing right here. You'd get it a part of the 3DS, and you put it down, and you take your 3DS, and just like your phone, you'd hold it in front of it, and Mario would come out of it, or whatever the character is that came with it. This is how they introduced AR to the world in a way, like, look, you can put this down and the thing will propagate on the card. This is a problem for our industry because they are not going to print out something. If you have to add one more step to their day when looking at ideas is not even their main job, there's no way they're going to print out something to view it. It's just not going to happen. You're creating a barrier. But we don't have to, luckily. So you guys can see, you can read here what's going on with the difference between marker versus markerless. You see on the bottom left, that person is spinning around that card, and it is spinning around the product. On the right is another form of technology which is integrated with web AR, which is called markerless. If you guys tried that QR code at the beginning with the robot and you propagated it down on something, there is no card. You're not putting something there. It's propagating in the space that you aim your phone at. So once you do that, you can take it and move it to a different location, and you can spin it around with 2 fingers, which you guys will see in a second. But there is no card that it propagates on, which gives you so much more creativity and fluidity to be able to put it in different locations, which is what Amazon and Wayfair and companies like that are doing with markerless AR, which is what we are going to be doing as well. Okay, so the time that you guys have been waiting for patiently to get through all that, to understand the history, why we use it, all of that information. Now let's go ahead and make one. I'm going to show you guys how to make one here. But a little bit of information that you guys should know. This, of course, will be recorded, but I would highly recommend right now you take a screenshot or a photo of this. This is what you will need. So you're going to need 2 things. If you like this, if it looks like something you want to try, I've tried so many programs, and right now the flagship that I've found is a program called Vectory. I've talked with them. They love me. I ask them lots of questions. They're very responsive. And this has been the one, and the only one that I would recommend. This is a company. Companies change, so who knows what the future is going to look like. They keep adding new features in, which I'll show you, and it's going to be pretty amazing. I love everyone grabbing their phones out. This is awesome. So there are other programs out there. You don't have to use Vectory. There are other ones that you can see there. But you will need a Vectory account or an account with one of these programs. And you do need a virtual prototype in FBX file with textures attached. So that may seem a little bit scary, but trust me, it's not. In fact, I dialed this down into 15 incredibly basic steps that you guys will get after this to do it. If you are already in licensing, you probably already have a virtual prototype. You may have a physical prototype. If you do, this is already a physical prototype. You cannot do this with a physical prototype. So you would need a virtual prototype made, a 3D model that's rendered. And all you need to do is ask your designer, hey, can you send me an FBX file with textures attached? You are just using that language and telling them it's a source file that you are getting. They may not have an FBX file depending on what they use. So there could be, you may get a .step file. Like for SolidWorks, you may get a .blend file. For Blender, a .stl. Those are okay. But if you can get an FBX file, which is really used for Maya, for Autodesk, and I'll briefly show you guys that in a second, that's really what you want. And again, you can talk with your designer about that. And I also have a section on how to talk to your designer about it as well, so we can, cover those barriers too. So for those who want to do this and don't have a model, I would definitely recommend using Turbo Squid. It is a website where you can download free models, and I will show you right now. I'm going to download a free model from Turbo Squid, from a known toy that you guys will be familiar with, and I'll show you how it works. There are, of course, other places you can get 3D models, and you guys can feel free to mess with these on the right here as well, which I will go into the difference between a colored shader. Again, a little technical here. And what the difference is between colored shaders and textures. And then there's also a turntable feature, which I will show you here in a second. I am not an expert. I would like to give you that disclaimer. I had no idea what the heck a shader was. So I had to do some research and figure out what the heck I'm doing when I first figured out if this could be a potential trend for licensing. I have found that some Google phones, it does not work. And also know that because we're not using a card, so we're using markerless AR. Note that if you guys are trying right now, like, I want to learn the difference between those two, and you guys are using those QR codes right now and checking them out. One thing to note is, because there's no card here, when you place it, you can't just walk around and say, okay, now I want it in my kitchen. No, you left it in your living room. You got to go back into your living room and pick up that object. It places it. It does not follow your phone. You follow it, which is great if you have, and I'll show you guys a massive, structure, and you can walk around the whole thing. That's what's so cool about it. You are controlling your phone to the object, and it's placed. Otherwise, you need to move it. So note that if you're having a hard time, it places it. Yeah.
I just figured out, Courtney, that you can take 2 fingers and you can spin it around the back. I'm like, how do I get to the back of this robot? And I just figured out, I'm like, oh, cool.
Totally. Yeah. So you can absolutely do it. So if you place it in space, in your environment, you can either pick up yourself, your body, stand up and walk around the object, or you can take your fingers and twist it. You can make it larger and smaller and spin it and do it that way too. Okay, let me show you guys, if you guys aren't getting these to work here, what it looks like on my side.
Courtney, I like that I can take it and move it anywhere I want to.
It's nice, isn't it?
I mean, I just put it on my shelves in the back, and it looks great.
I like that, but Courtney, to me, just seeing the product and be able to spin it around and look at it from all angles, unless it's furniture, I don't really need to put it on a shelf or my desk or whatever. It doesn't seem necessary a lot of the time, but I do like to be able to spin it around and look at it from all angles, though.
Yeah, so yeah, this is what's interesting about Vectory in particular, is that they are combining both augmented reality and 360 model. And I would almost say that the 360 model is more exciting because of what you can do with it. They are together. So for those of you who have not done this, you can see one of the bottom QR code were these guys. These are textures. You can see his chest on there. That is a texture that they added, where colored shaders are just color. You can see it is turntabling, so it is spinning right now. You can take it and drag it around as well, and look at the close detail of it. You can go up to it and look around it and whatnot.
Well, you know what I like about this. If I have a product, I can go down to the retail store, right, and put it on the shelf.
Absolutely. I had a student do that, actually.
And I can see what my product looks like compared to the competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Or use it as an image for your sell sheet. If you're making, say, a baby crib and you have a baby room and you plop that crib on, you can take a photo in the program and it looks like the crib is there. And then you can send that to your designer and put it on your sell sheet. Like, this is next level stuff, guys.
Well, that's a practical application. If you're recording that, then Courtney, and you just put it in a room and then you record, can you record the video and you're moving around? So you are essentially creating an animation that you could just send as a video if you wanted to too. Am I making stuff up here, or is that?
No, I believe so. I only know that you can take photos. I would assume that if you can do photos, you could do a recording as well. But absolutely, that could be a part of your promo video. And
interesting.
to make a
that's cool.
prototype. Yeah. So that's just one example, so you guys are aware of what's going on with that for those of you who are not able to view it. And let's go ahead and get into it, and let's make one right now. Okay.
Well, Courtney, I'm going to have you do all mine now. Okay.
It's pretty phenomenal and it's addicting. I mean, once you do, like, all right, Courtney said it's cool, like I get it. And then you have your product shown in your living room that you can now mess with in 3D model. You're gonna shout it to the town. Like, I had to be so careful about not constantly talking about it with my family of like, look, this is right there. Like, I can like zoom in, I can go inside it. Like, it is, yeah, it's, don't get too excited, y'all, because you want to keep your friends here. So this is the program that we're using. It is called Vectory. So you guys are aware of what it looks like here. I want to streamline this as smooth as possible. No downloads, no coding, all in the browser. Normally you'd create an account. Again, the two things you need, FBX file and an account. I created an account. Normally you log in and click open Vectory. I've already done so. This is my workspace. I'm going to double click on this to go into the workspace. This is now the workspace. I've done this all in advance here. This is your workspace, your playing field. I will tell you guys that Vectory you can use as well for creating 3D models. I don't recommend it for those of you who just want, AR. This is far advanced stuff, but just be aware for those of you who are familiar with, I make my own 3D models. So, you can absolutely make your 3D model in here as well if you are already doing that kind of thing. They have pre-created shapes and all that. I've never done it. It's definitely more technical, but just so you guys are aware, that is a capability, a part of it. We're going to grab, like I mentioned, from TurboSquid, phenomenal program. You can see I downloaded a bunch of them and tried them. We're going to download a fan favorite of the Rubik's Cube. Downloaded it, you can see it's been put down here. I also created an account with TurboSquid to get that. We're going to take it and drag it into the program. You can also go ahead and click choose file as well. And if you can't drag on your computer, you can do it that way too. This is the first thing that comes up. This is described in great detail in my document. But AR, if you're creating, a refrigerator and you click fit object, it's going to make probably a very tiny refrigerator, maybe like a dollhouse refrigerator. You may not want this. This may be a large scale refrigerator. So you want to make sure that the dimensions are important here when using augmented reality. You want to make sure the size is proper. So I would recommend originally doing fit object, and then if it's too small or large or whatever, you can always click the other or make it larger or smaller. Here is the Rubik's Cube in our space. Pretty simple here. It looks exactly like it. There are these three toggles to feel free to use as well that bring them up or down, left or right. You can also make the object bigger or whatnot. Now that it's in the program, there is very little we need to do at this point to get our model. You're going to click up here on the three bars. You're going to go to settings. You're going to click publish. Now we've got some options over here on the right. You can mess with these if you would like to. For our purposes, when you're starting out, you don't need to mess with any of that. There's that turntable. If you want to use that, you can go ahead and check that. And then it talks about rotations per minute. You can feel free to change that too. Usually I keep it at 3 to 5 rotation speed, but I usually don't use the turntable. So I'm going to put that off there. I will have also a disclaimer here that Vectory is constantly changing. So there's a new way to do what I'm showing you right now. And that is also located on the document. But because the other one's a little bit glitchy, we're doing it this way. Again, all located on the document. So you can see right here that it's talking about this thing that's going to, not happen anymore. All you're going to do here is click generate. Now this can take a little bit. It's going to be real quick because this is a simple model, but this is a good time to practice your breathing. Just be patient and wait here. If you click it again, it will cancel it. So do not click it again. Just be patient and wait. You can see it already finished and it says done. Get the embedded code below. The only thing that we have to do, and we have done it, is change HTML to link. Now we're going to go ahead and open it up. Again, we're going to practice our breathing here. There we go. And it's already there, 360-degree model. You can feel free to go in it. You can see inside of it. there's AR at the top here. You guys can feel free to try it. It's now, live. It all works. You can put the Rubik's Cube on your desk and take a photo of it, of what we just created. Those are all of the steps to create it. That is the entirety of creating augmented reality and 360 models. You're going to be using a QR code like this to show on your cell sheet. So with that said, they're going to review the opposite. So we saw the 360 model first, and then we can make it into augmented reality. The way Vectory works right now is when you scan that QR code, you're going to get the AR first, and then the 360 model by clicking on the cube on the bottom left. So that's something to be aware of. You cannot give them a link. This is the only way it'll work. And that's just a part of what we have to deal with right now for Vectory. Couple things to look forward to before we move on into the cell sheet. I'm gonna exit publish mode here. Is GIFs. This sadly is not perfect right now because they're messing with it. I talked with them, but you can see what's to come. So let's say if I wanted this image on one of the sides, I basically found a GIF. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the main Rubik's Cube here. Let's say I want to change the yellow to the GIF. I'm going to click the yellow. And let's say they do have already textures in here that you can mess with, which you guys may go nuts with when you originally see it, but there's all sorts of really cool textures that you can utilize as well, and it will change it for you. So you may want to try those textures. There we go. Elsewise, you can go ahead and easily add a GIF in by clicking on the texture. You're going to go into animation, and I will show you guys right here, but I will have to unshare quickly to be able to add this in properly. I swear there's no voodoo magic going on here while you guys don't see my screen. Okay, and now you can see it right here, propagated. And I would not mess with GIFs at this time because though you can see it nicely in preview mode, it doesn't seem to work as well. Actually, it's a little glitchy, ironically, right now. But it's only working well in preview mode, so I would not recommend GIFs at this moment. But if that's something you want to add, it's incredibly easy to do for something to look forward to. And then there's the textures as well.
Courtney, is a way to save money with a designer where they can download an existing model and then just modify it rather than creating it from scratch? If you can find a model that is close to your invention and they can modify it, or do they normally create it from scratch?
That would be a question more so in relation to how people create 3D models. If you're paying for a 3D model, they will most likely create it from scratch, except for main shapes like cubes and cones and stuff like that. Elsewise, if they can find something similar to your product out there, you probably wouldn't want to move forward with that product anyways, because that would probably constitute a form of prior art.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Let me understand this. We at InventRight, we do a lot of 3D models now, and it seems it saves a lot of people a tremendous amount of money, and they look real. I mean, they look so real, you think you want to purchase them now, which is really kind of great. So we can tell someone could tell that designer, I just want this for AR, and you said, and that's all I need to do.
Well, you need to say I need a FBX file with textures attached. But yes, it's completely free, and the designer should be able to give it to you for free as well. Like if you have a virtual prototype, it is completely free.
And so how does the QR code, how do you get that then?
Yes. So you guys saw that QR code that was visible when it propagated. You're basically going to take a screenshot of it. And this is what you do next. Now that we know how to create it, how do we utilize it? So there are two things here. One, you need the QR code that you would screenshot from what we saw there, where we clicked the AR and it showed that QR code. You're going to screenshot that. Now you're going to create instructions because this is still new. People might say that's nice, there's a QR code, but now what? So you do want instructions located on your cell sheet. You can see on the left and the right, there's an example of where they could be, which is how I do all my cell sheets with something like that, but themed properly, you know, not the red and orange, more purple or whatever. And then it does not matter how cool it is if they can't get to it. So instructions are incredibly important. Make sure that you do have instructions on there because they will not do anything with it. We're trying to get rid of barriers, not add them. Same thing with the video. As you guys may be familiar, when you do have a video at the part of your cell sheet, normally we like to add it in the script, like, hey, please see my video attached separately as well, because some people are not aware that PDFs are clickable. So same thing with AR. This is the example of the exact script that I use with my licensees of explaining, you know, please don't hesitate to reach out if you need help with viewing the augmented reality, you know, bucket or the 360 model. Of course, you don't have to put it in a cell sheet either. You can not do it until they say I need a prototype. And then you could send it that way as well and send the QR code. And that is fine too. This is located on the document that you guys will get. I won't go through it because it is intense. There's a lot of different things here for trial and error. I have trials and tribulations on the document of what there are a couple things that may happen. It is incredibly streamlined, and I usually do not run into these problems, but there are 3 main problems that you may run into, and luckily all 3 of those are really easily solvable. So feel free to take a look at this. Again, they are in the document, so you can, you know, we can look at that as well. You can see here too high poly count is one of them. Again, what the heck is that? I talked about that on the document too. You can see here what's going on. There are some software though that I would recommend to not have your designer use. So you should ask them, if you're working with a designer that you've never worked with before, hey, what do you design in? And if they say SolidWorks, or if they say AutoCAD, and you are looking for augmented reality, I would recommend either asking them if they could use Maya or find another designer, because these 2 particular softwares, as you can see here, it's without concern for polygon count. So what that means is when those softwares were created, polygons are all the little things that make up the entire thing. So there may be, you know, 100 polygons for just like a square. It's things that you can move and edit in relation to the actual product. And so you can see on the right here, your model has 180,000 polygons. The recommended is 100,000. I have got away with, I think the most is 700,000 polygons, even though it says, you know, it's big. Are you okay to do this? And I say yes, and it works. It's preferred to be lower. But SolidWorks and AutoCAD doesn't do polygons. It's just, it wasn't something like discussed, or it's not used for that. So you're going to run into a lot of problems. You can do it. It can work, but you may have to work much harder to deal with someone who uses those 2 softwares. So I'd recommend trying to stay away from those. The other things, again, you guys can look at the document, and I'll skim by this, is textures on attaching. So it's a cool product, but there's no color at all. There's a way through that as well. Again, these don't happen as often, but I want to make this as foolproof as possible so you guys have a chance to actually utilize this. And then even more rare, the UV mapping is not unfolded or done properly. Again, a little technical, explain it on the document, very streamlined. And if you say one of these things may be the problem to the designer, they know what to do. They have done this before. In fact, if you guys are familiar with WoW, World of Warcraft, or any other like intense like gaming engines, all of the characters, all the trees, all the scenery is usually created with Maya. And what we are creating, like those cool like 3 characters that we saw that were rotating, that is exactly what we're creating. We're creating movable characters that can be used in a game engine like Unity, or, you know, in a game like World of Warcraft. So we're basically creating character assets is what we're doing. And that is something that you may be aware of if you hire, say, a Fiverr artist to create your virtual prototype, that you may want to look for like gaming assets or characters for a game, because they are more familiar with this type of, you know, FBX files and textures and stuff like that.
Courtney, we got a few questions. There's one from Patricia, and I'm going to make a statement. You tell me if I'm right. The 3 ways you can deliver this is a QR code or a URL, a link, a web link, or I saw an iframe when you were in there that you could embed into a web page if you know how to, embed an iframe into a web page. Are those the three major mechanisms?
So for our purposes, no. So a QR code is really the only way that I would recommend it.
Okay.
There are, without getting too far into it, the iframe is in relation to HTML that you put on a website. For our particular purposes for licensing, we don't recommend websites. So you would not be
Right.
using that. If you're in
Got it.
another industry, you absolutely can embed it. And a link that does not work for our purposes. It's the reverse. And I also go into the document because I would love to send a link that's way
Thank
more
you.
streamlined.
Thank you. That's super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple quick things here. Using AR for the licensing industry. And I made this just for a little surprise at the end if you guys want to take a look at that QR code. Pretty phenomenal with that one because it is large scale and you can have your kids play in it. I'll just say that there. It's pretty phenomenal what you can do with when you understand the breadth of it. So if you've never done licensing before, do not do this for your first product. There are glitches. It will delay you. Don't think I'm going to start licensing. I'm going to have a video. I'm going to have AR, the 360 model. I'm going to start it all together. Don't do that. It will delay you. There's too many, balls that you're juggling. Do this when you're a little bit more seasoned. Also, with that said, do not go overboard. You're going to put, just the object. Don't put a person utilizing the shovel. Don't make it a scene where there's like a massive, water in a pool. Don't do that. We're using one object. We want this to be streamlined. We don't want this to be glitchy. Start small. We're just talking about your product. One object is what you want for augmented reality. Same thing, what I'm saying is try to solve the world mentality. This is not like, most revolutionary, new, innovative thing with this massive scene. We're starting small here. If you want success, you have to start with the basics. And this is where we are with working with the basics. One object is what we're talking about. If you have multiple colors of something and you want to show all the colors, show that on your cell sheet. But we want one object. Even those 3 characters that I showed on that turntable, that's really pushing it. If I was doing this for a company, I would do, and I needed to show all of these characters, I'd do 1 QR code per character, not all 3 like I showed. Also, don't try AR just because you want to. Some products it makes sense for. Some products does not. If it's incredibly simple product, probably does not need augmented reality. Don't use it just because you want to. Make sure that it makes sense. Make sure you're a professional with this. Of course, this is new too. Just please be aware that there will be glitches. Some people don't know how to use QR codes, or they have a Google phone, which they have to go through another step, and that's okay. This is glitches. You need to be aware of that if you do choose to go through and create an augmented reality for your product. And the very last thing here that I've got is, let's just briefly talk about changes in the licensing industry. This is from my personal perspective that we originally started as Inventors with drawings and descriptions, napkins, sketches, sending it over to a company to pitch to. And then we got into cell sheets. And then we got into cell sheets with videos. I personally feel that cell sheets with GIFs we jumped over. We didn't really do that very much. I definitely do have students who are using that, and it's great for short-term videos to be placed on a cell sheet. But it didn't seem to catch much attention in relation to a lot of inventors using GIFs. So I'd say we kind of jumped over that personally, which we can always go back to and keep messing with. Also, so you guys are aware, GIFs do not work with PDFs. So if you want a GIF in your cell sheet, you need to be able to have it on a platform like Google Slides, like I'm using right now, to have the GIFs work as you saw those other GIFs. So now that we've done that in the licensing evolution, we're in cell sheets with AR and 360 models. My guess for the evolution, if this does catch on, is we get into animated AR, which is what you saw with the airplane, and rigged AR, which are, think of a person that has joints, and you can take your finger and you can move that joint, and you can mess with it. You can open up the box and stuff like that. Those are barely possible, I will say, with Vectory, but I would not recommend doing it because it's incredibly glitchy. The last thing that I'll say here is, why are we doing this? We do want to stand out. of all sorts of, companies. We want to make sure that we have a fair chance, and we want to up the level of professionalism so we are not deemed as inventors as crazy. It's about time we got rid of the inventor in the garage that's tinkering, and we don't want to be crazy. We want to be professional. We want to make sure we put our best foot forward. When you're creating a product, you guys need to take pride in your products, y'all. We're not just throwing something together and sending it to a company. You are possibly changing the way consumers consume. You may be making a toddler game, and you are changing the way the toddler thinks about the world. This is important stuff. It's really important to understand that when you are attempting to bring a product to market, that you really think about this fully. You are professional. You really work out your product. You need to take pride in your product development because, again, there's a good chance your product is going to shape or change the way consumers consume. It may be the next Monopoly. It may be the next big thing. It may be the next Rubik's Cube. But it won't be if you don't put your professionalism first. So make sure when you're going through development, this is not just, it is a fun project. It is, a fun hobby, a fun career or whatever, but take pride. This is serious business when you get into actually, pitching a product and have it licensed. Take pride in this. Spend some time making sure that it's correct. So you have, the highest chance of getting a licensing deal and the highest chance of upholding the inventor community. And that is it. I'll give you guys the document here in the chat, and I'll also send it to you guys via email. But if you guys are excited and want to immediately go ahead and look at those instructions, you can see that it is right here in this short URL. You can take a screenshot. Again, I'll send this over to you guys too, and you guys can take a look at the 15 steps to do everything that I did from starting a Vectory account to downloading that QR code and putting it in there.
Hey, Courtney, if people have other questions, how can they get a hold of you? Should they go through IGA? Is that the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, you guys can use my Courtney at Invent Leaders email. I'd say LinkedIn is a really nice way to do it as well. I'm pretty active on there. Less of a barrier for me. Feel free to use my email too. I'd love comments, thoughts, questions on it. I try to be as thorough as I can when I bring up actual material that you guys will be using, such as this is the document. So if you guys have any questions at all, yes, absolutely go ahead and send me an email or go ahead and use LinkedIn. But otherwise, feel free to talk to Vectory. This is constantly changing. This is a Google Doc, so I'm constantly adding information on it, and you guys will get this as well. But I'd probably say LinkedIn is the best.
Courtney, I want to talk, well, first of all, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. So that was truly amazing. Courtney, you know what's really interesting, which I really like, as you know, the industry is changing quite rapidly.
Yes.
LinkedIn has been a game changer. 3D printing has been a game changer. Everything's changing. How to reach out to people, how to present, how to pitch, all those things are changing. Why is it so important to be current, in your opinion? Because I know you're on the front line. I know you're working with a lot of people. Why is it so important for you to be current and for other people to be current with the latest technology? You said it, but I want you to say it again, because I want everybody to know, if you're not actively in the game today, your information is probably a little dated. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you just starting that sentence with "we are a fast-paced industry" is incredibly true. There's all sorts of new technology that's going out. I mean, Hasbro is not old, they're not taking old practices here. They are big for a reason, and though for quite a few reasons, they're on top of it. And so if we are truly inventors, if we call ourselves inventors, then we really should be innovating, whether it's the practices we use or it's the ideas we come up with. Once you learn the rules of, what we recommend, not alienating companies, whatever, you have an opportunity to break it. And the only way we can become a more powerful industry, and, we're talking, on trend here, that's the only way to do it, is to innovate. And so this is, where that's coming from, that we need to be able to see the big picture here.
And the competition, just so everybody knows, in different industries, the competition some of them are a little bit more sophisticated, some are really sophisticated, right? And so you really have to up your game. It depends on what industry you're in. So that's why it's really great to have these type of classes you're teaching. So we are at the top of our game of what's available. And if you cannot do it, find someone that can help you do it.
Yep. And it's
Because
free.
with these big companies.
Steve and I, we teach inventors to be practical. And so I also like that Courtney at the end was giving some tips on being practical about this. Don't just do it because you can, do it because it makes sense for your particular product. And so I love that she talked about that as well. Can we do a quick group shot here with everybody like giving a thumbs up or a hand wave, and then I'll just only take like 2 secs. I got to get through all the screens. So if we could do that, here we go.
Is it a family photo? Is that what it is?
Family photo. Yes. There we go.
Photo.
Page 2. Page 3. I'm fast, guys. I'm fast.
You've gotten a lot faster at this, Andrew. I remember when you first started doing it.
Well, once I get to page 4, 5, 6, and 7, there's nobody. Okay, I'm good. I got it.
Wow, Courtney. I know there's a lot of questions, you guys, and I know we're at the top of the hour. So please reach out to Courtney on LinkedIn. By the way, if you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn and connect with all of us. Connect with Andrew and myself and Lindsay. Not Lindsay, but Courtney. Connect with all of us so we can start to share information. We can build a stronger community, right? And that's why LinkedIn is such a great platform.
Just in case everybody didn't understand, Courtney, you dropped the link for the document in the chat, correct?
Yes, and I will send it out to everyone as well separately.
Via email?
Yes.
Oh, that's nice. That's fantastic.
And we can watch this video again. When and how can we watch this again, Courtney?
Yeah, so it'll be on our website through the members page, and it'll also be on Inventors Groups of America YouTube channel probably in the next 2-3 hours.
Okay.
Wow, you're fast. 2-3 hours. Wow. Impressive. I'm impressed in so many ways by Courtney, Stephen. Thought she did a great job. People were commenting, you're a great teacher, very motivational. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Really cool.
I'm incredibly passionate about bringing the community forward, and this is just one way to do it.
So let me go ahead and unmute everybody.
But you just got a little busier, Courtney, because I've got some projects I need.
Okay, everybody
Oh, no.
everybody unmute yourselves and give Courtney a round of applause here. Here we go.
Hey.
Wow, Courtney.
Good job.
Thank you guys. Stephen, real briefly, would you like to go ahead and talk about, I'm going to showcase 5 group leaders
Thank
tonight.
you.
I'll just bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah, Courtney had mentioned Inventors Groups of America is all about supporting all the leaders across the country that are helping inventors. And those leaders are there to help you too. So we do believe that if you're close by any of these inventors groups, anywhere around the country, please join them. They're great people. They're angels out there. They're there to help you. So support and join your local inventors group. You'll find some wonderful people there to help you along your way.
I saw Daniel was from the Vegas group right there. That's just 5 groups. There's many more than that. We just kind of feature 5 groups each time. But they are really angels. They're running an inventors association and they're volunteering. And so, we realized, Steve and I realized nobody's supporting them. And so we decided to try to do our best to support them. And
that's where I met Andrew over 20 something years ago. So
in my group, yeah.
I'm a big believer in that, those organizations are very important for all of us to support them. So please do.
Cool.
And if there isn't any near your area, again, we're having a meeting mid-April talking about those who might be interested in starting a group. And if that's the case, LinkedIn message me or go ahead and send me an email at any of the emails over at IGA. You can find located on our website, and I'll happily let you know when that's happening. And if you guys are interested in potentially starting a group, we'll break it down and you guys can have that information to be aware of to decide if you want to create a group or not.
Cool.
Perfect. Anything else before we end our event here? Great. All right.
All right. I'll be sending you some work over in a few minutes. So thank you so much for
Courtney.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone so much for coming. Really appreciate you guys coming here tonight and spending your Wednesday evening with us. We hope to see you all in our next meeting in April so we can bring you more expert information in the areas you need help in. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye,
You
everybody.
guys.
Bye, everyone.